Everybody, welcome to this Wednesday's edition of the Black and Gold Dynasty Show. And I have a special guest this evening. We got JT Toth. But before we talk to him, we got to do the thing here. Intro is, here we go. Like I said, everybody, I got a special guest this evening. He does a lot of stuff on the draft, and he does a thing called Draft 412 out of Pittsburgh. They talk Steelers draft, Penguins draft, and Pirates draft. And it is my pleasure to bring on to the show the host of Draft 412 podcast, JT Toth. JT, how you doing, sir?
Good, Bubba. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good. Yeah, it seems like we're always talking and stuff and talking football and on different shows. And it's an honor for you to spend the time on mine. And I appreciate last week when you had me on yours, man. I had a really great time. So thank you again.
Great podcast. I loved it. Loved the good times, and can always talk football, especially the Steelers this time of the year.
This is. Last year we couldn't do any of this last year.
Nope.
And this year we got a little bit of help. Now, did you think we were going to get the help we needed, or did you say, well, we're just going to have to wait till next year?
You know what? The game that we got the help from was the game that I thought going into it we were going to get the help from. I didn't think that I didn't trust Miami beating Buffalo going into this past weekend. I thought for sure that was the game. If we had a hinge on that Sunday night game, that'd have been terrible. But I had good vibes about Tennessee. I mean, I was like I always kidding around. I think I was Mike Vrabel's going away present for us Steeler fans.
Yeah, because then he got seriously canned, and it seems like everybody's on a chopping block. And that was the game too. I took the Titans too, and I took Buffalo over Miami. But that Sunday night game, the Buffalo Bills, to me, didn't look too spectacular. What's your thought on that game when they were facing the Dolphins and who we got to face this Sunday?
I think Buffalo, they went 5-0 down the stretch, but I think a lot of the teams they played were, and people were putting Pittsburgh down for the same thing. They were playing teams that weren't at 100%. They weren't, they weren't the normal strong teams like Miami on that. They were missing a couple key players on both sides of the ball. I didn't think the Bills played real well. I think the Bills are a unique team for the fact that about 6 weeks ago, before their win streak, they should have beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if you remember that game. It was a real good game, one of the best football games of the year. They blew it at the end. Some rough calls in that game, but that was the start of their win streak right after that. So I thought that they were better than their record at the beginning of the year. I think they played better at the beginning of the year at some points, even though they're winning games now. I think they're catching teams at the right time. I think Pittsburgh, lucky they got in the playoffs, but I also think that they might be catching the wrong team that we wanted to play here. I mean, Buffalo's a hot team right now. I guess we'll get more into that, but that's the only thing that really worries me about this game. Is
so you would have rather seen us go into Kansas City if the Dolphins would have won, because they were winning at halftime 14-7, and then that special teams touchdown, and then it was 21-14. So at that time, did you Sunday night wanted to see the Steelers go into Kansas City, or did you figured, we might as well have to go up to Buffalo here?
I think at the time I was thinking Buffalo, honestly. Kansas City don't scare me though. This ain't the Kansas City Chiefs we played, a couple years ago, or the team that even last year. Their offense is not clicking. Mahomes is trying to do too much. That team could definitely be a one and done. I'm being dead serious when I say that. I think any team in the AFC could be one and done. There's not a team that powers anybody else in this conference where I feel like how the last couple of years you had KC, or you had you had the Ravens at their top, and then you had the Bengals with Joe Burrow, and that there's not really a team like that this year. I think the Steelers represent pretty well against these teams, and like you mentioned off the air, with the weather coming to Buffalo, that's only going to help the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's going to help the matchup. I mean, I'm not looking for Mason Rudolph to do anything more than what he's done for us up to now. He doesn't have to throw 3 touchdowns.
He just has to just manage no mistakes, and that will be advantage Pittsburgh.
He's got to turn into the old Trent Dilfer that will always bring up Trent Dilfer whenever quarterbacks are just on a team that just don't turn the ball over and you'll be fine. I don't think our defense is quite there like the Ravens was back in the day with Trent Dilfer, but if he just plays his game, doesn't make a mistake, because I think Josh Allen is capable of making 1 or 2 bonehead plays where he's just gonna, you put enough pressure on him. If Highsmith starts putting pressure on him, Allen's one of them guys that don't go down. He reminds me of Ben in that respect, how Ben used to play. He'll get wrapped up, he'll have guys on his legs, but he'll still try to make a throw.
Right.
Sometimes it works out well. He hits Diggs in the secondary and boom, it's over. But a lot of times he'll make a throw and it's like, he throws it in coverage trying to make a play happen. So the Steelers have to take advantage of that. That's first and foremost, especially if the weather is
well, let's talk about that weather. It's supposed to be, and I want to say hello to Mark from Steelers Nation Australia in the house, man. A good guy. Great. He was on last night, man. And he's so into the Steelers.
Love it, man.
He's awesome. If you ever get him on your show, man, he is quite a trip.
Mark, reach out to me at jt@draft412.com if you ever want to talk draft stuff or even just talk Steelers. So.
But yeah, the weather now is getting to be a predicament with it's going to be 24 degrees, 50 miles an hour winds. Just catastrophic for any of the passing, which the passing is the strength of Mason Rudolph with his strong arm, because in the 3 games that he played, I don't know if you saw his stat, which is a crazy stat. I think he had he's second place as touchdowns over 60 yards. He's only been in 3 games in the whole season. Could you imagine if he would have played during the streak when we were losing, if he'd have played 2 more games?
Yeah, if he'd have played them games when Trubisky, right when Trubisky started looking terrible, where they could have made a move and people in Pittsburgh would have been all for it. I don't understand. They gave Trubisky a lot of time, a lot more time than I would have gave a guy that really looked bad. But let's get something clear to the Steeler fans, and I know you know this, but what we're seeing in Mason Rudolph is great for what we've seen for us all year. But he's still, think about it in the big picture. People from different cities are probably watching him going, this guy ain't that good. What the heck? He was 18 for 20 last week, but I think, he was throwing 5-yard dumps, 6-yard dumps. But for what we need him to do with the way our running game is going right now, we just need him make some passes here and there to keep him on their toes. The weather shouldn't hurt him as much. It actually could help Josh Allen. Let's talk about that though. 50-degree mile winds. If he's throwing that ball with the wind, he might throw the ball 120 yards. He's got a big arm to begin with, but he's the kind of guy that he won't try to cut back on throwing into the wind. And I think that's where the Steelers could make something happen. And if he getting snow on top of that, it's going to be miserable for passing.
Yeah, it's going to be. But the thing is, though, even with him and Diggs not even, being a connection like they once was, and having, Joey Porter on Diggs, and Diggs is not he hasn't had a good game, and I don't think he's been doing good in last 7 to 10 games.
Yeah, it's weird. The Bills really haven't, for them being on a 5-game win streak, they're just basically getting their run game going again. Their defense is stepping up. They really haven't, like I said, they haven't played a ton of top quality opponents over the last 5 weeks. Like New England was in there. Like they had Miami that was half hurting on Sunday night. But to get back to that, like Joey Porter could be the big star on defense now that Watt's not going to be there.
So you're thinking the X factor on defense, you're going to go, as if you say it right now, would be Porter Jr.
It's Porter Jr. - Highsmith, because if Highsmith can show the world that he could be the man without Watt being there, it would be nice to see him get 2 or 3 sacks or get 2 or 3 quarterback pressures, something, because the scary part about Josh Allen in snow would be if he drops back to pass and there's nothing there and he takes off, because if it's 24 degrees, 50-mile-an-hour winds, that ain't gonna feel nice trying to tackle a 6',
Right.
6'6" quarterback taking off, and that's gonna be the main factor. I really believe. I think the Steelers shut down their actual run game, but I think the Josh Allen factor, being able to run,
That would be the biggest factor of the Buffalo Bills on offense is
definitely.
Allen. But we have Fitzpatrick came back to practice, I
That's
believe
big.
today.
And
KZ's back,
it's huge.
so
And they lost Tristan Thompson, but
he's on injured reserve
Trenton Tom, yeah.
IR.
So
Now let me ask you, because I've been doing these shows all week, and one of the guys, Rich Smoke, the smartest man in Philly, he said that the other day, like TJ Watt, before he got ruled out, he's probably I would take 85 to 90%, Bubba. He's probably going to play. He's going to be like 90%. Now he got ruled out by Tomlin because he was he was at the facility walking around with no brace on. And they probably had to tell him, hey, you're not going to play, because I believe I read and heard that he wanted to go back in against the Ravens. He was upset. And if we can definitely win against Buffalo, TJ will be playing next week. That I believe will be written.
I saw a report tonight, about an hour before I came on here. It's from a rumor site, but it's a very good rumor site that I use for stuff: MLB trade rumors, NFL trade rumors, and like NBA, NHL, all the four sports. But they said that it was reported, or not reported, but I guess people were saying that they don't think Watt will play until the championship game. That could be just the Steelers. That could just be the Steelers, though, being cautious. And I mean, I honestly think if it's just what it is, and it's 90%, he could go. I bet you he's played with worse in his career. I know. He played.
Yeah, because it went Sunday. It was a grade 3 sprain, and then it was the MRI showed a grade 2, which I have no clue. We had to research the sprain degrees.
Yeah,
and it was just a freaky accident with Montavious Adams being out there. And I'm not a big Montavious Adams supporter all year. I thought that they could have had Benton in there, put the rookie in there and just let him go. But they used that experience of Adams because they signed him for $1 million. I think it was $1.2 million or 2.1, nothing major. And they needed some depth on that defensive line. But also too, the defensive line, because this could be Cam Hayward's last game ever as a Steeler.
It definitely could be. Really could be. I mean, at his age, what's he really got? I mean, I know he wants to win. He wants to win a playoff game so bad. But I mean, I don't know if he's willing to come back for another full season. Like he's the guy's, knock on wood's been healthy right this year after coming off some rough injuries. But I mean, what me and you were talking about before we started this thing, Mika coming back, the weather.
And we can get more into this. There's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors that actually, I hate to be that guy, but I remember when the Steelers beat the Seahawks when they were a wild card team, and I didn't think their team was better than what they are now. They had Ben.
Sure.
They had, but I didn't have no feeling going into them playoffs that year. I remember that. I
remember when that year when they were the wild card team. We didn't have a chance in hell against Cincinnati, and it took Kimo to hit him, Carlson Palmer in the knee, and then that just changed the whole dynamics of that game, and then it changed the whole dynamics of the playoffs.
That's exactly,
just that one
exactly
hit.
Right. And then you saw what happened. He threw a bomb on that one hit. It's like
and
it
was a connection too.
I think it was Carl Pickens, I believe.
I believe you're right.
But it's I didn't have a good vibe that year in the playoffs. In fact, I went to I'll never forget that I played deck hockey 2 hours before that game started, and I hurt my finger, which I still got issues with. But I didn't go to the emergency room because the Steelers were playing the Bengals. That's how I remember that game. That game reminds me so much. I remember sitting down, deck hockey stuff on, and Von Ohlhoffen rolling up on his leg and going, "Oh my God, I think we're going to win this game." I can't remember who the quarterback that came in was.
I can't either, and he was getting lambasted.
Yeah,
just the whole tempo of Cincinnati, it just was deflated.
Yeah, I mean it was, and it basically, if you think about it, that I'm not gonna say it woke up Steeler Nation, but that was and
then it was on a drive, and they won. And Ralph Williams says hello. Ralph Williams is in the house from Beaver County owned.
What's up, Ralph?
We got our I have every confidence Steelers are going to be a good game. Cold weather teams. Yep. Craig from Patton, thank you for tuning in as always.
It's going to be a unique game, man. It's going to be one of them games, 1 o'clock on Sunday. You're going to want to sit at your TV. If that snow is coming down, it's going to be it's going to be
great football game.
Epic game. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a game that, I mean, there's a lot of demons can be released. There's a lot of stuff that comes.
There's a lot of stories.
There's a lot of stories. A lot of stories. I mean, if Tomlin does he get his win?
Speaking of Tomlin, him and Sean, they're buddies. They're not. No offense, they're not two of the greatest scheming strategy coaches in the NFL. Now, if Tomlin could come up with some kind of defensive plan against Josh Allen, because I was listening to some sports talk today, this could be something that Tomlin would have to do to come up with some schematics. Him and Austin has to come in. They have to come up with some kind of game plan to stop Allen. Allen is the major focus of this team, and they got to come up with something. And I have if you got to take anything, the Steelers defensive line against the Bills rushing attack, who would you take, JT?
That's a good question. I love Ed Oliver. I love some of the guys on that defensive line for Buffalo. They're good. They're strong. They're veterans. But I've liked the last couple of weeks. I've seen that. I thought the Steelers' offensive line looks more coherent. I think that except for 2 games ago when James Daniels basically let a guy run in and hit the quarterback.
That was bad.
But Ed Oliver, they got Leonard Floyd, they got Russo from Miami of Florida, a good defensive, and they got a good young defense with talent all around. They got some good linebackers. It's good safeties. I mean, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, that's a great combination in the secondary. I think what the Steelers are going to have to do, and this might surprise people even in a snow game, I believe the Steelers are going to have to let Mason Rudolph hit quick slants like at the first down, like boom, hit Pickens, like open up the linebackers and the cornerbacks a little bit for Buffalo. I think Rudolph has a strong enough arm, and he seems to be throwing that in pass as well as I think I've seen a Steeler throw that since Ben, like that little quick cut in, which I don't know why Pickett never did that, but I mean, George Pickens is a big receiver. If he gets inside a cornerback going across the middle, and you can hit him in stride like Rudolph's been doing, but I think the Steelers should start off that game working a little backwards. Like everybody's going to think they're running that. Let Rudolph just. I'm not talking like 20, 30-yard passes. I'm talking like just to open up a little bit.
See, when you say that to me right now, when you're talking about that, it reminds me when they went into. I think it was when they played the Colts that year. They were going into that playoff run with Ben, and they used Heath Miller. They were lighting them up in Indianapolis, and they were using Heath Miller, and they haven't used Freiermuth hardly at all this year. So in this weather game, he would be a great advantage to use.
And that's a good point. In this wintry kind of game with 2 aggressive safeties, they got Poyer and Hyde who love Buffalo's going to put them in the box early in the downs because the Steelers run the ball. I mean, the Steelers don't hide the fact that they're going to run the ball. They're going to sit back and hand the ball up. So there's a good chance Buffalo's going to start that game with the safeties in the box. Poyer and Hyde are good run stoppers that love to come up. They're aggressive. You made the great point about Heath Miller. Why don't the Steelers come out and use Freiermuth? I mean, I'm talking like 5-6 yard passes.
Right.
Get them safeties back.
Nothing huge, just to open it up, because if Najee's averaging 3.5 to 4 yards, and then last week, Jaylen Warren had his worst game of the year due to the weather. But also too, when the Pittsburgh Steelers are running in between the tackles, they couldn't be stopped. When they start trying to go on the outside, you don't have Najee on the outside. You have Warren on the outside and let Najee go tackle to tackle.
Oh yeah. That's the way. That's the way it should be. Harris struggles once he gets out in space. Even though he's a big guy that has some speed, he loves I guess I don't want to use the P word, but he has he pitter patters through holes. He has pea feet. You know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't run aggressively. He'll saw pull. He does that Le'Veon Bell thing, but without the Le'Veon Bell talent. Le'Veon Bell used to take that handoff, and if you remember, he would do that little stutter once and set up his hole and fly through it. Harris does not. When he runs outside, it's like he just doesn't. I don't think his vision is as good as some of the better back. I watch Warren gets that outside run. If you watch him, he cuts at the right time. He hits the holes. His speed and he's like a cannonball. I mean, it's the more they're playing together these last 3-4 weeks. I'm coming off of my don't give Najee his 4th year rookie contract. I'm coming off of that to a point now, or the 5th year. I'm sorry, the 5th year rookie. Don't give him that 5th year. I was saying that all year, but the way I see them, their combo right now is.
I think that's the best. I think they're the best combo, or one of the best combos in the NFL right now. Not because I'm a Steeler fan and I'm biased.
I believe me. I was hard as you could be on this about 6-7 weeks ago. I was doing live podcasts saying there's no way you extend him that 5th year rookie contract after watching him run at the beginning of the year. But lately, I don't know if it's a change of offensive coordinators, the fact that Broderick Jones is now at least on that offensive line.
He's worth the 1st round pick. And I was going to get into his other counterpart on the other side. I'm not a big Dan Moore supporter. I think that's the weak link. I believe, because right now Dan Moore is the worst, and you would know this because Draft 412. He's the worst lineman in the NFL, I believe, or pretty close to being the last.
I know Pro Football Focus has him real low.
He's low.
I think he's even lower than 32, which means he's worse than some of the.
Because he had 8 sacks and 55 hurries, and that's not good.
No, he is here's the weird thing about it. He's better. He would be a better tackle at right tackle, but he can't play right tackle. Supposedly, he'd have to learn the position. He's not one of them guys that can. He's made to be a left tackle. The way he comes out of his stance, he's gonna have to change all kinds of things, which is the only reason I believe that Broderick Jones hasn't made the move. Because Broderick Jones is your left tackle next year. There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts. That's about as cement of a statement as there's going to be. Broderick Jones is starting at left tackle next year for the Steelers. Moore had that half a good rookie campaign where he really he was I want to get it wrong, but 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th round. He was in that 3rd, 4th round range, but came out and played well. He performed well for himself.
Yeah, well, he had a great game. Ben's last game, he shut down Myles Garrett, so I figured that would transpire over into and make him solidified as being a younger lineman, but it just hasn't worked that way.
It looks like he's lost speed. He's lost a little bit of agility, because it looks like them games. Even you mentioned Myles Garrett. He got destroyed by Myles Garrett this year. I mean, he got destroyed by he went to get some good defensive ends. Don't get me wrong, but he's given up. When you're a tackle and you can see the sacks on TV, it's never a good thing. I mean, you could just see the guys coming off the line, and him. Yeah. He's gotten some holding calls when he doesn't, on run plays on the opposite side. He's made some bad.
Do you see him gone? Do you see him gone next year?
I think the Steelers might. I think Moore's gone. I think they're going to find any way to replace Mason. Yeah, they're going to find a way to replace Mason Cole. They have to. I mean, I thought the guy did decent his first year here. I thought, he did all right. He kind of he's a veteran.
Last year, I think he did better than this year.
Oh, he definitely did. He was a veteran stopgap, and at the time, I'm like, all right, it's a veteran. He sort of I was like, maybe it's like the Jeff Hardings thing, how he brought Jeff Hardings in. No, it didn't work out. And the Steelers are a franchise, and you're my age. I was born in '74, so I've dealt with this. Yep. I've dealt with Webster through Dermontti Dawson, through Pouncey, all the centers we've had here. They need a young center to build. This team won't win until they get a center that can run this offensive line. And if you look back in their playoff years that they've done well, they've always had a good, solid center that takes care of the middle. I mean, a good center can make a bad right guard be all right. If a center's that good. I mean, we had a chance of Creed Humphrey a couple years ago. And
we did.
I don't want to get too hard into the draft, but the Steelers, and the biggest mistake the Steelers made was knowing that Kevin Colbert was leaving and letting Kevin Colbert, his last 2-3 years picking, was just getting Ben toys. Like Najee Harris, no reason to take him in the first round. Either we took him in the first round. Then we take Freiermuth in the second round. We're Creed Humphreys sitting there. That I think was one of the biggest mistakes in what the Steelers have done in the last 10, 15 years. I think that the Steelers should have, maybe let Colbert hang on as a consultant or whatever, but they should have a new guy in there to make the picks, because I think the last couple of years he was getting Ben his toys, which is no big deal, but when your quarterback's not going to be here to enjoy them anyways, it doesn't really make
what's the use of getting them, and half the people that he got in some of those drafts are no longer in the NFL anyway.
Nah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the way Najee Harris is as a person, the way he plays hard. I know he's playing hard.
Right. I agree with you.
No reason we got him in the first and Freiermuth in the second. We had all them holes on the offensive line and in the secondary, and we took toys. We tried to make Ben's life better, which I love Ben.
Hey, I do too.
We gave him some talent, but I mean, I guess then Colbert realized after doing it that Ben really couldn't throw a ball more than 10 yards and had no mobility in his last couple of years, which I would have taken him the first 8 games this year after watching our offense.
Oh yeah, get out of your podcast and suit up. Yeah, most definitely. I got people. Ryan's got some question. Got a question for us, but he got a comment. No, TJ Watt is concerning. I think Buffalo should take care of business, but that doesn't mean they will. Josh Allen has a way of being careless with the ball at times, and he knows because he's a Raven fan. But that's his 2 cents. And also, I got a question. Do the Steelers draft a quarterback? That was one of his questions.
You know what? I had a podcast last night. We got into this. I really don't think the Steelers are going to give up on Kenny Pickett. Even if Mason wins a playoff game here and they say, hey, we're going to have a healthy quarterback competition next year. If you want it, Mason, come back. I mean, Mason's not going to get the money people are saying he's going to get. He's not going to get $16 million. He's not going to get crazy money like that.
But if Mason does the big upset, because Buffalo Bills are favored by 10 points. So if he gets this big win in this redemption story, which is a great story for Hollywood, and some team picks him up because the Steelers won't sign him, do you think he'll stay and take the hometown deal, or do you think he'll go?
I don't think there's a hometown deal with him, honestly. I think what's a team that could possibly be a backup for the Jets, just say,
right,
and get $9 million to be a backup for the Jets, and know you're number 2. Like, hey, we're guaranteed you're number 2. If he gets that guarantee to be a number 2 somewhere else, I don't think he would trust the Steelers anyways. They say, hey, come back for a competition.
I don't think he'd want to come back as a competition if he won a playoff game. He'd be like,
I don't think so. I don't think so either. And I think if he wins a playoff game, then that price may get closer to double digits, where a team's like, hey, we want him as our backup at least, or we'll draft a young guy, let him play a year for us. But to get back to his question, I think the Steelers do draft a quarterback, but I think it's in the third, fourth, fifth round. I think if they lose Rudolph, if they know they lose Rudolph, they bring Pickett back. I think they could bring a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, like Jordan Travis, the kid from Florida State that got hurt late in the year. Even like depending on how the quarterbacks grade out once they get closer and closer. There's Quinn Ewers. There's about a group of 6 or 7 where 1 or 2 of them guys could sneak into the 3rd round. And I think, hey, if the Steelers like them well enough, why not bring a young guy in the backup?
Do you think they would get? This is my question. Do you think they would get one in the draft, or would they get a veteran? Because we won't have any veterans because they'll be cutting Mitch Trubisky, and if they don't sign Mason, all we have is Kenny. Would they bring in somebody that has some? I mean, I don't see him getting Russell Wilson. I don't even see that. But some veteran, capable if something happens, like maybe you're not saying it would be like Brian Hoyer or somebody like that, but a backup that has NFL experience.
And I was thinking, I think the best scenario for the Steelers would be Pickett your starter, you bring in a veteran to back him up, and you draft a kid in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. If you like the kid, do you think is a 3rd quarterback, you want to bring him in?
And Ryan says Jameson Winston. I don't know. Hey, if he's got the victory formation and he gets a touchdown, I mean, that was.
I mean, he has the arm. I mean,
he does.
decision making will drive us insane here in Pittsburgh. But the guy that I would love, but I know he's got enough in his career left. He's not going to do it. But I wish he was like maybe a year or two from now where he's not a starter anymore. I think Kirk Cousins,
Okay.
but he's got enough in the tank. I think he's not going to take a backup spot yet. You never know though. Some of these veteran quarterbacks. But I'd love to have a guy like that, like a guy that's willing to teach, be a backup. Like Charlie Batch was excellent at that back in the day.
Right.
A guy that had enough talent to win you a game or two. Never didn't care if he ever played.
A teammate, a consummate teammate.
That's
not like Ben worrying about Mason coming in and taking his job. It wouldn't help him out. And I love Big Ben, but
Yeah, that was one of Ben's down. That was one of his bad moments, and Mason sort of made it known.
Ryan said Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, do I have a problem with if Tannehill is your backup? It's not really a bad thing. If Pickett's,
he's got experience.
Yeah, that's all you want as a guy. I want a guy with a little bit of above average arm because I think next year we got to open up. We got to have Pickens. We got to show people. I mean, Pickens had 1,100 yards this year, which is the most amazing number I've ever heard in my life. Because I would have if you weren't following it week to week, there was no way that you would think that George Pickens would get.
Last week, he didn't get a ball thrown to him, and he was laughing, and I don't know what they said to him, and he was in high spirits. And I just see, I mean, I don't know, because we talked about the weather. The weather's going to be a factor, but it only takes one play to get him a touchdown and something. And Dante, just some play with Mason Rudolph staying in the pocket, because that has been his strength these last 3 games, where if Kenny was in behind the pocket, he's running outside the pocket. And I know people that go to the game and there's people open and he doesn't throw it to them.
I mentioned tackling Josh Allen in 25-degree weather, 50 mile an hour winds and snow. Imagine being a cornerback on an island having to tackle George Pickens on a quick slant pattern with his speed, his size, in the snow. I think this game might surprise people and I'm not going to say it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I could see it being in the 20s, where I know a lot of people are probably saying the 17-7 kind of like sloppy kind of thing. But I think that there'll be a big play or two in this game, maybe by each team. I mean, Diggs is going to be tough to stop. I think this is where Joey Porter is going to he can really make a name for himself.
Right.
He's had a great season.
And Joey has made a name for himself all year. I mean, he was he got a little dinged up, in Seattle just a little bit, but I mean, he was still, it's going to happen. He's going to get caught for them pass interferences. I'm okay with that.
That may happen. I mean, that was, if you read our draft guide last year from Draft 412, that was one of the first things we stated, that he's handsy. He's going to be a penalty guy. If you notice, though, I was looking, he's like 3rd or 4th in the league in pass interferences, but he has a lot more holdings, which me personally, I don't mind a 5-yard hold, automatic first downs every once in a while. I'm like, right. Okay, maybe the guy, his interferences haven't been real deep either. They've been he's so aggressive. They're usually on these little quick passes. He hits a guy a little early. So he really isn't costing us either with these. He's not one of them cornerbacks that's giving it like a 60-yard bomb and pushing the guy down and we're giving up 60-yard penalties and stuff. Right. So he hasn't really bothered me. The one thing I love is his length and his speed. Like, you can see it against like Hopkins, the way he's just on these guys, man. He's going to be one of them. I'm not gonna put him on the Revis Island yet, but he's going to be he could be one of them guys down the stretch where he's just known for being a total shutdown corner.
Well, there's other stuff we haven't talked about, and also the Steelers got decimated in their middle linebackers, but LaDainian Roberts has been something this year. He's playing Sunday, and he's played against Josh Allen twice a year because at Miami. So that has to be a little bit of something, also too, going against Allen, he's going to.
Yeah. Landon Roberts he's been the way he's been fighting through pain and injury. I mean, when they lost Cole Holcomb, they lost Alexander. This team is. I mean, honest to goodness, if you tell me their linebackers the last 5 weeks of the year and their safeties the last 5 weeks of the year, this might be Tomlin's best coaching job he's ever done. with the Steelers. I think his team was really, if you think about their inside linebackers and their safeties, and then going with your third string quarterback with an offense that really hasn't clicked all year, and you still made the playoffs.
You would consider this Tomlin's greatest coaching, getting this team into the playoffs with the injuries, the quarterback situations, firing the offensive coordinator.
I think it's at the top of it's towards the top of the chart. Honestly, I think that this team had a lot of times where they could have just folded up. I mean, after them 2-10 games, I'm a big fan, but I was like, guys, I even want them to just like, hey, just lose the rest. Let's get that 16, 15, maybe 14th pick of the draft where you got, I mean, there's always every 5 picks in the draft, the talent level just changes. So, I mean, you get in that top 15 is pretty nice. And they kept winning. I'm like, all right, that's the playoff thing. And Emmett, my buddy Emmett, last night we were on a podcast together, and he made a good point. The Steelers organization is basically on a treadmill that's just the same every year. We don't have that like Baltimore. He mentioned Baltimore even every like 5-6 years. Baltimore gets like a top 10 pick. They had that one season where they just
we haven't had it. We had to trade in for the top 10 pick.
That's what I mean. And we haven't had number 1 pick for forever. So every once in a while, a team needs that. I think Chicago, if they don't win after this next year with the draft picks they got and the trades they can make, every team needs that little bump every once in a while. Cincinnati had it with Burrow and Chase. Cleveland's had it several years. They've had number 1 picks and top 5 picks, whatever. But we're basically just playing from the same pool of talent. And the Steelers aren't a team that's going to go out and sign a DeAndre Hopkins on the first day of free agency, and that's just the way they are. And it's funny because people in Pittsburgh really don't get on them like they do the Pirates. It's like,
right. How do you like that one?
Oh,
this is Mark from Australia.
It's tough to beat a team 3 times, Mark, but it's happened. I think it's happened in this series. I want to say even.
I think it has. When we went to the Super Bowl, we beat them. We beat them in a championship. Was it 2009? And I think we beat them in the division and in the Jets. But see, when you were talking about Tomlin's greatest coaching this year, this reminds me of, and I go back to it all the time in my head, the year that Chuck Noll lost to Cleveland, lost to Cincinnati by astronomical amounts of points. We got killed. 51-0, 49-7, whatever it was. And he took, it took us Gary Anderson field goal, to win the playoff game and then go on the back of Merrill Hodge in Denver and almost winning that game, and then Worley fumbled that ball. This kind of team reminds me of that kind of team, but this team here has a lot more stars than they had in the 80s, which I understand that. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But it reminds me something like that. And just to get into the playoffs, it's a whole different season. It's just we're playing with house money, and that's how we can do it.
I agree, and I said it, and you said it. This is not your last year or 2 years ago's AFC. This AFC is wide open.
I think it's weak. I think this is the weakest I've ever seen it in a long time.
I think you're right. There's no Burrow throwing a chase you got to worry about. KC's offense has taken 3 steps back this year. I don't know what the problem is. They're going to fix it. This is the one chance. And my buddy made a good point the other day. This is the 1 year take advantage because KC's going to rebuild their team next year.
I can't name one receiver besides Kelsey in that receiving core of Kansas City. And I don't know. And we talked about it in our show.
They're all young guys. They're all young guys. Rashee Rice and Sky Moore. They're just young guys.
It's a shame that Taylor Swift, when she goes to a game, the ratings are astronomical, which I don't understand it. But hey, God bless her. But I got Ryan saying, I know Najee has multiple 1,000-yard seasons, three in a row, but he also had a lot of carries in those seasons. I just feel Warren is more explosive runner. I feel he should be getting more carries. How do you feel about that, Mark?
I've actually we've actually had this argument on the 412, and we talked about the fact that I was saying the same thing early in the year. I thought that he should get 2 carries to everyone in Najee's. Like, he should get 6 out of the 10 carries, basically. That's what I thought. I thought that Warren at the beginning of the year deserved more carries. And talking it through with people, Warren, I think, he's that electric just rush of energy that comes in, and he takes advantage of the fact that he's not.
I think he's better out of the backfield catching the ball, JT, and actually getting yards and then breaking away for big yards or using a screen, which maybe we'll see now, with
Yeah,
Sullivan and Faulkner, stuff like that.
I think you get him in the open space with his speed and his power. He's a handful to bring down for a cornerback or a linebacker out wide like that. And I think that's one of the things. I think there's a couple things on offense. If I had a genie and said, let's fix this right now, I would fix the fact that they don't use Freiermuth enough. Like Freiermuth should get, with a young quarterback, Freiermuth should be close to 90 catches. And I'm not even exaggerating. With the 17-game season, he should get an average of 5 or 6 touches a game. They got to change that, and they got to change how they do their screens, how they set up their screens. Like,
well, they don't even use Calvin Austin. Like he got that return on the punt, which is our special teams has been very weak on the returns.
Yeah, that was
and
the best,
I am so, and I don't want to. We signed this, Brad Wing as a practice squad punter, but Percy, he's just not doing it with the kicks, and I don't need him shanking one up in Buffalo. We don't need that.
Especially in a field that's going to be probably slick and hard to play on. You don't want to give any short fields up on Sunday, because that's and I think we were talking about before the keys of the game. I think we got a big key as our kicker. I think Chris Boswell is so underrated, man. I think he's one of the most underrated. He's the most underrated player on the Steelers by far, and probably one of the most underrated kickers in the NFL that people don't talk about enough. I know he's not like Aubrey from Dallas making his first 31 field goals, whatever, like numbers like, but he's
good in cold weather.
But yeah, I'll tell you this: I don't ever get, even Gary Anderson. I used to bite my tongue a little bit. Here we go. But I do not. When he kicks a field goal, I don't even like.
I always think it's automatic. I always
think
it's automatic, and I think Mark from Steeler Nation Australia actually picked Boswell as his X factor of the game Sunday. I believe so.
That's a great
and
pick,
I
Mark.
and I'm sick of the debate too, Mark, because I think we have 2 great running backs that complement each other, and that's why we're in the playoffs anyway, due to the backs of Harris and Warren, and the little bit of Mason Rudolph sticking in the pocket and the team rallying around him in this redemption story of something. It's just, he's an all-pro. Smash Mouth Football, Brian Reddick says, screw the outside runs. Yeah, I just think that if you're going to do the outside runs, you pitch it to Warren on the outside and let Najee tackle the tackle, But
I agree. On a field that's slick, the best thing to do, and I remember this as a kid, even playing high school football, on a real slick field, you want to get your speed out in the open, because if you think it's hard to tackle somebody running after somebody in the grass that's faster than you, if the guy has any wheels at all and he can stay on his feet, you ain't catching him in the snow. And that's why I think them quick slants to Pickens or a quick screen, if you set the screen up the right way to these receivers, even like you mentioned, Austin, get Austin out in the open, give him a little 3-yard pass.
Yeah.
And give him the middle of the field to try to, the kid's got amazing speed. There's no doubt about that. And you saw it in preseason. I mean, he caught that 80-yard bomb or 70-yard bomb from Pickett. That wasn't even.
And the Raiders, that Raiders game, he had that. That was just streak, and he was gone.
That's what I mean. They just haven't found that. That's part of the thing I was talking about before. Like, they haven't used Freiermuth right. They haven't used their talent in the right ways. And that's.
Well, do you think they'll use that jumbo package with the 3 tight ends with Washington, which he's a load, blocking, and he had a bad game. I seen him blocking a couple games ago. He had a bad game blocking, but he stepped it up. Now Connor Hayward, doing some traps and making some nice blocks too. So the tight ends, are not probably, I think the tight ends for Buffalo maybe got a little bit more honest because they're actually catching the balls where Freiermuth is not. If Freiermuth was getting the receptions that you just said, like, anywhere between 75 to 90, the advantage would be the tight ends for the Steelers.
I agree with that. I mean, Freiermuth does nothing but catch a ball when you throw it to him. I think they will use the 3 tight end packages, though. I think they're going to get to the point where if they start moving the ball on the ground and they're confident. The Steelers are one of them weird teams that they get really good confidence on run game. Like you can see it building up. They get a couple big runs. It's like that offensive line just. I don't know if it changes their mindset, but they just go after it. And I think if the Steelers really move the ball well early in that game on the ground, which I think is going to be set up what I was talking about before, I think that Mason's going to be a little bit more aggressive early in downs than we're used to seeing, because I think the Steelers are smart. They're going to try to use their speed on the outside and just there's not a defensive back on Buffalo that can run with a George Pickens. So
let me ask you another question, and I got a couple of them before we get out of here. Did they defer, or did they take the ball first?
I would say defer.
Say defer.
I would say I'm a big defer guy. I used to always say get the ball. I mean, we had Ben always wanted the ball. Like, back in our heyday with like Antonio Brown and Ben, I was like, I'll get the ball, score. But I'm a big defer guy now, especially the way we play. I like that feeling of having the ball late in the first half, knowing you get the ball first in the second half, and you could double your points kind of
Well,
thing.
it's like that Ravens game, or no, not the Ravens game, the Cleveland game when we got that quick interception for a touchdown in 57 seconds into the game, and then we deferred. Now, if something like that happens, I think there's going to be a big takeaway for. I think I see someone from the Steelers defense. And we haven't talked about him. I think Nick Herbig could be. He's not TJ Watt, but he's still, his motor is still running. And, I believe they're not going to be trying to go for the sacks. They might be trying to play the lanes and maybe stop Allen so he doesn't get so much run. He's going to get some runs. We're not going to stop him completely.
No.
But if the Steelers have a habit of punching out the ball, because TJ Watt does all the time, Steelers are opportunist, about getting these turnovers. And I believe there's going to be a couple on Buffalo's side that hopefully the Steelers can capitalize. But Nick Herbig and Marcus Golden, we're better depth on the outside linebackers this year than last year when TJ Watt was out and we had Malik Reed, who, that was just god awful. So we're upgraded that. I'm sad that TJ's not playing because he makes such a difference, which he's way better than Myles Garrett.
If TJ Watt's playing right now, I wouldn't guarantee anything, but I would say the Steelers I would actually say the Steelers are going to win the game, like without even a hesitation.
With TJ Watt in the lineup, he wasn't hurt.
I think he put enough pressure on Allen that he would force an Allen mistake, whether it be a fumble, whether it be just a quick interception because he's worried, or I really do believe that. But I do believe what you're saying. I think that every once in a while a player comes into the league that people were sort of wrong on him. I'm a draft guy. I liked Herbig in college, but I didn't see this playmaking ability.
I mean, he's been like Mark.
He's one of them guys. He's like a playmaker. He's a guy he's on the field.
Golden has 4 sacks too.
Something big happens. He's on the field.
And every time he's on the field with his limited play, something always happens.
And it was like that in exhibition too. It was like that in exhibition too. He's just one of them guys. I mean, some guys got that certain way of being around the ball. I thought Minka was like that early in his career with the Dolphins in the first couple years of Pittsburgh. Right. I mean, he was always around the football.
Well, he'll be around the football because he's back. I mean, he's definitely at it.
He's huge. I mean, if him and KZ aren't back, then this game has a lot of ebb and flows that can go either way. But the Steelers were down their safety still. I would say, all right, we're in big trouble because I like Dawson Knox. I like the Bills tight ends. I think they'll just destroy our safeties at this point. But now having Minka back, and that's where the playmaking comes in. I'd have no problem seeing Minka step in front of a pass or picking up a fumble. Minka seems like he's due. It's been a while since we've had that big splash Minka play, and I think this would be why not?
Due. And I like that Rao guy they brought in, 29 tackles.
Oh, Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe.
Yeah,
he's not bad. I mean, he's a former high draft pick. It's the Steelers actually done a good job this year of picking up guys when they needed to, and filling in spots here and there. Their depth definitely needs. We can get into the draft later on and shows. But the Steelers have about 5 or 6 needs.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be great needs, like big needs, but I mean, going into next year, look at their receivers. If they don't, what if Johnson doesn't come back? And you got Pickens and Robinson and Austin. You got to get a veteran and a rookie. You basically, So they're real close to having,
There we go.
That's a good point.
Covering the tight ends is the key.
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding.
Thanks for tuning in. So before we get out of here, like I said, who you taking and what would be the score of Sunday's game at 1:00?
Man, I'm in my head. I'm seeing 13-13. I just don't know who I'm going to have win this. 2.5 win this game. I'm trying not to be a Yinzer. I'm saying
I'm bad. I'm all the way, all day.
And I've been down on the Steelers this year for the most part. Even when they were winning at the beginning, I'm like, this team's not good. I was rooting for them to lose 11, 12 games, like I said, just make the draft fun. They'll have a higher pick. But I'm going to go Minka does do something, and the Steelers win this game 20-13.
Oh, nice. Okay. It's going to be a good one. And then if they do that, then they go in the Baltimore, that's set up. And then we said something on the other show. Rich Smoke said Cleveland Joe Flacco going to Baltimore is a story for the NFL.
Oh,
that's the story.
Huge.
But I took the Texans. I like CJ Stroud I just think he might pull something out. And
I think it's one of the most underrated rookie quarterbacks we've had in years. I think his numbers are speaking volumes of what he does. I thought the game against Pittsburgh, he played.
They just beat us from pillar to post.
Yep.
Like that was just a display that and this year Mike Tomlin losing to 3 rookie coaches, 0-3, not good. And let me ask you before we get out of here, there's been media speculation that he's going to do a Sean Payton and take a year off and do whatever. Do you think he does that, or he just put that out there in the media to try to get that extension? That's what I heard that too.
Do you know what scared me? I was watching or listening early in the week. On Monday, I was listening to the Pat McAfee show while I was here writing, and Jay Glazer reported it, which that's what I heard. That's what freaked me out a little bit, because this guy Jay Glazer, for the most part,
knows his stuff.
Yeah, and he's not a guy that's just gonna try to pull something out of the blue to get clicks. He don't need to do that. So it's gonna be on Tomlin. And it's funny that you said that, because I saw a show where the guy was on Pat McAfee. It was the same day Vrabel got fired, so the guy was like, he was a big Patriot fan. He was going nuts. He's like, we're gonna get Vrabel, and then all of a sudden, I forget which guy it was on the Pat McAfee show, but he looked at him and goes, well, if Tomlin takes some time off, Vrabel would be a nice fit in Pittsburgh. And the guy was like, so do I think he will at the end of the day? I actually think it's more close to 50-50 than I ever thought, because especially if he wins a playoff game, I think he'll do it. I think he's
wants to do it to shut everybody up, including myself.
I think he would do it to spite the fans. Like, here you go, here's your playoff win kind of thing. And he knows he's going to get paid. I mean, he's basically, after the Harbaugh thing settles down, could be the highest paid. He'll be the highest paid coach in football. The team's going to give him a ton of money, whether it be a Jerry Jones or
to me, he held Antonio Brown together, but to me, when he couldn't get anything with the Killer Bees, and we lost to Jacksonville 45-42, I soured upon that, and I'm not into mediocrity, and I know regular season wins, and I understand that, but like you said, and I do kind of agree with you, this could be his greatest coaching this year, getting into the playoffs with the injuries, a third-string quarterback. And I believe this would be the year that could be his greatest coaching ever. I mean, I'm going to give props when props are due. And yeah, I can agree with that of what you said before. So I can agree with that.
I just think that teams aren't really the big thing that teams are going to look at, and this is huge for free agency and for just players in general. He won that players vote thing for who do you want to play for? Like the highest they asked players, what coach would you play for? He won that like 3 times over the next guy. And that's what organizations are going to look at. Like, hey, this guy, these guys want to come here and play.
But also too, when you're
on a team that has money, because the Steelers don't. I'm sure there's players that wanted to come here. They're like, I ain't coming for that money.
Right.
Where if he goes to a team like Washington or someone that opens up their pocketbooks to big free agents, he could get. I mean, that's what I think the organizations are going to look at more than the winning part of it. Just the fact that he's a guy that, hey, these players want to play for him. Let's get him in here. See if we can get.
That's why he's more of a rah coach, not an X and O. But he better be scheming against Josh Allen in Buffalo with Terrell Austin come Sunday. I mean,
well, good thing he's more beneficial on the defensive side. So I think he'll come up with something. He has a better defensive mind than he does offense. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's guaranteed. So, but yeah, so you're taking Buffalo, or you're taking Buffalo to lose.
I am.
Yeah, I mean,
Which means the Steelers are going to get their asses kicked, just so you know. I don't think I'm bad with the Steelers, man. I am. Like,
it's hard picking the. I mean, I just pick because I can't. I can never go against them because I'm a typical Yunzer, and my show's all Steelers and pro Steelers.
no,
So
I understand.
I have a
that.
hard
Believe
time.
me, I find every reason to not take them, but I actually have, even talking to you now, which is the fact, and I was even bringing Herbig in the equation with, he'll get to play more snaps now, which a guy like that on a playmaker like that on a field like that, he could be a game changer. We mentioned Cam Hayward. I think Cam Hayward could. I just think this defense has enough talent still to make Josh Allen
do
But
something.
I mean,
Yeah.
which I'd feel better with TJ Watt. Don't get me wrong.
Oh
but,
yeah.
But I mean, I think there's still enough playmakers on that secondary. I think Porter defending, and then them throwing the opposite way, maybe to a tight end. You're going against Minka Fitzpatrick. I'll take my chances there.
All right. Well, I tell you what, JT, thank you for coming on tonight, man. It was a pleasure.
Problem,
and we'll definitely do some stuff in the off season about the draft, because your knowledge in the draft is probably unparalleled. So everybody, if you guys need to subscribe to Draft 412, he's got the podcast, Draft 412 Podcast.
It's all podcasting, guys. We have the top prospects in the Major League Baseball, NFL. You get on it right now, you can find. I just went through a 7-round mock that ESPN had, and we have like 5 guys that we haven't profiled yet. So we have over 300 profiles of players. So basically, any player you type in that website, you'll find a profile on him, his stats. You know, it's what we do. We do it for all 4 sports. So if you're a hockey fan, get on there, look at NHL stuff. So all about the draft.
Well, thanks for coming on. So, and we'll definitely do a in-depth, because I don't know much about college and draft and stuff.
I'll take care of you, man.
I'll have to pick your brain.
do position by position, week to week, whatever. That's no problem. Come on for quarterbacks 1 week, even if it's a 10-minute thing. I'll give you a little quick tidbit on who the top ones are.
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right,
so
man.
yeah, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please hit like and subscribe. Check out Draft 412 with JT Toth. Great coming on today and giving your expertise and knowledge on Steelers and football as you know what's going on. So everybody, please hit like and subscribe. I'll be back on tomorrow talking Steeler football, because it's playoff week and I'm not used to this. You know what I mean? It's exciting. It's like the old days, you know. So okay, everybody, thank you. Have a great night. JT, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Have a nice night, everybody, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.